So I put my CPAP to the test and I measured how much energy it uses with heat and humidity and without heat and humidity. And the results I've found are very interesting. It helps you understand how much battery pack you're going to need if you want to have a battery backup for heat and humidity versus using it without heat and humidity. So right off the bat, let's just get the results out of the way. So with my DreamStation 2, with no heat and humidity, it used 6¼ watts, or 6¼ watt hours per hour of CPAP use. And with heat and humidity, that number jumped way up to 60 watts, or 60 watt hours per hour of heat and humidity CPAP use. So when you're trying to figure out what size battery you need, let's start with the most basic unit, a single 8-hour night. So what that means is that the DreamStation 2 with no heat and humidity uses 50 watt hours per night. And then when you use it with heat and humidity, it uses 480 watt hours per night. So if you wanted to size your battery pack to be fairly useful, say 3 nights, which is what my calculations in this video are for, you can assume that with no heat and humidity, you'll need a 150 watt hour battery pack for 3-night use. And then with heat and humidity turned on for 3 nights, you're going to have to find a pack that is, 1.5 kilowatts, kilowatt hours of battery backup. I got 1440 watt hours. And so when you start looking for batteries and pricing what they cost, you will notice a trend that pretty much across the board, unless it's a really cheap piece of junk or some overinflated, relying on name brand battery pack, that these power stations cost somewhere around $1 per watt hour of their storage capacity. So going back to the 1440 watt hour needs for heat and humidity for 3 nights, you're talking a $1,500 battery at least, and you probably need to oversize it a bit to find that. So $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 probably what you'd be looking at if you wanted to back up, if you wanted to have a 3-night backup with heat and humidity. Well, if you are just willing to turn the heat and humidity off, you can use a much smaller battery pack. And so that $1 a watt hour trend that we see in battery prices right now, $150 and you can get 3 nights of battery backup. So anyways, the rest of this video is going to be I'm going to show you how I tested it. We're using a variable power supply that shows the watts that it uses, volts, amps, and watts. All of it is there on the screen. I think it's a very interesting video. I hope you enjoy. Today I'm going to answer the question, how much power does my CPAP use and what size battery backup do I need to run it? So first off, let's determine how much power a CPAP uses. This is the DreamStation 2. I got this recall replacement for the toxic DreamStation 1, which will be the other CPAP that we test. What I have here is a variable power supply. I have it set to 12 volts, so you can adjust the voltage on it. You can also adjust how many amps go through it. So I'm going to get that back to 12. And I have the amps, the current that it will flow, maxed out all the way. So this will go up to 10 amps. And then this bottom reading here calculates, volts times amps equals watts, and it shows us how much it's using. So here is the DreamStation 2 with its, 12 volt adapter power supply. And then here is a 12 volt socket plugged into the power station. Well, that's not a power set, the power supply. So let's just go ahead and plug it in, and we'll let it turn on. Let's see how much power it uses at idle. So it's bouncing around, between 2.3 and 2.7. So let's call it 2.5 watts at idle. I'm going to write that down. 2.5 watts. Let's look at this together. Humidity at 5, heated tube at 4. And we got flex at 2. I wonder if I can turn that off. Let's turn flex off. Okay, so we're heat and humidity are on, and then my pressure is going to start at 10. So you can see the watts it used has gone way up. We're just under 40 right now, occasionally peaking higher. Let's see what happens if we block the air off. And now the watts go up to just under 60. So just making air does that. So I guess I should go ahead and put this on my head, and we'll see what using it uses. Okay, so what it looks like to me is that with it on my face and I'm breathing through it, it goes between 55 watts and 65 watts. So let's just go ahead and mark that down as a range. Heat and humidity, 55 to 65 watts. And then we'll, take the mean of that and use that for our final calculation. So now, let's test with no heat and humidity. So we'll go back to settings and we'll turn humidity off, and we'll turn heated hose off. Let's turn it back on. So it looks like we're about 10 watts less use. Let's slap it on my face again. Okay, so with heat and humidity turned off, what that looked like to me was during exhalation, it would go down to about 2.5 watts, and breathing in, steady, normal breath in, would go up to about 10 watts. I did do one sharp breath, and it popped up to 45 watts, but let's just say for no heat and humidity, this device uses between 2.5 watts and 10 watts. And we'll take the mean of that for our calculation too. Alright, so 55 watts plus 65 watts divided by 2 is 60 on heat and humidity. And then let's do 2.5 plus 10 divided by 2, 6.25 watts. No heat and humidity. What does this mean? The energy is rated for by the amount of watts you use per hour. So you have a battery. It tells you how many watt hours come in it. Your electric bill at your house, it tells you how many kilowatt hours you used. So we'll just extend these numbers out per hour. So heat and humidity uses 60 watt hours. And no heat and humidity uses 6.25 watt hours. And that's watts per hour. Continuous draw for an hour. That's what we got. And how you translate that into what it does for your battery. Let's open up this battery and take a look at it. So this is a rather large battery backup. It's a lithium iron phosphate, and it's rated. It'll be hard to see way down here. But it puts out 12.4 volts, but its capacity is 297.6 watt hours. So let's write that down. So to determine how long you could run this on heat and humidity, with this battery, let's just do some really simple math. We're going to take 297.6 watt hours, and we're going to divide it by our 60 watts per hour, and that means that this battery should be able to run this CPAP under these conditions with those settings for just under 5 hours. Now, if we take the no heat and humidity, this should be a really huge number. 297.6 divided by 6.25, 47.6 hours. So that seems very believable, because I have tested this battery running this CPAP off of it with heat and humidity. I have some numbers here from a previous video that I made, and I can link the video to my test of this battery in the description. But so this is my no heat and humidity, the amount of hours I ran this CPAP off of this battery before the battery turned off, and I got 40 hours of use. So our little quick test of how much power this thing draws is pretty close. Now this is a little different. So I ran it with heat and humidity on for 6.5 hours, and so I got so you take the battery capacity divided by 6.5 hours. It looks like maybe this thing settles down once everything's heated up and warmed up, and it might use a little bit less power. But from our real test here, just running it for a couple minutes of 60 watts, and if you believe the capacity of this battery, you could determine that this was using 45 watts. So anyways, it's pretty similar. And so what that means is that if you want to size a battery to your CPAP, you need to size the battery based off of how you want to use your CPAP. Are you going to be using it for heat and humidity? Then you're going to need a huge battery. So let's take our 60 watts per hour, and let's just make believe what size battery we need. Let's say we want to run our CPAP with heat and humidity for 3 8-hour nights. So let's go 8 hours times 3 days times 60 watts. That means you need a 1440 amp hour battery. That's a huge bat. That's almost 1.5 kilowatts. You know what? Let's just see if there's any products like that available. Okay, so trying to find one which is about 1.5 kilowatt hours isn't all that easy, because I guess it's kind of an oddball demand to go specifically for that. But this first sponsored result, this Jackery portable power station, it claims to be 1,534 watt hours. So if you wanted to spend $1,699, you could get your 3 days of heat and humidity. So put that into your noggin. Let's just write that number down. 3-day run would be $1,700. And so it's very expensive to have a battery pack that will run heat and humidity for you. So that's why most battery packs that are affordable, you should never run heat and humidity, and should always just run just CPAP alone. Now let's see if we can find an equivalent battery for the 3-day use. So we're going to do similar math. We're going to do 8 hours times 3 days, and then we're going to multiply that by the 6.25. That means we need a 150 watt hour battery. Let's see if I can find a product that matches that. Alright, so this Jackery portable has another option, which I guess would be a good comparison price wise. There are things that are hilariously cheap. Here's a 150 watt hour, for $24.99, free 1-day shipping. But you get what you pay for with batteries. The example I have is this is a lithium-ion computer laptop battery, and it's a cheap one off of Amazon, replacement battery. It claims to be, you know, 5,200 milliamp hours or whatever. But when I opened it up after it died, I noticed one thing: there are no wires going from the BMS to the cell. So there's no active cell management. It doesn't know what the voltage of the individual group of cells are. So this thing, you know, it's all bloated, and most of the cells are dead. The middle ones seem to be okay, but on both ends died. So a cheap battery is not going to last very long because it's not going to have any means of balancing the cells. So you definitely get what you pay for with batteries. And the bigger they are, the more expensive they are. So anyways, let's go back to this. This is a limited time deal, down from 150 bucks. It's $118 right now. We'll just click it. But this is the 167 watt hour lithium battery. It doesn't have a cigarette lighter port, I don't believe. So you need to come up with a way to plug it into one of these 12 volt outputs to use it. But anyways, you know, just think about that. $150 on sale for $119 to run a DreamStation for 3 8-hour nights versus $1,600 to run a DreamStation with heat and humidity 3 nights, or $1,700 is what it was. So let's just see what a DreamStation 1 uses power wise. So let's go ahead and transfer the hose over, and we'll transfer the power to it. Plug it in right here. Let's just turn it on, see what happens. Okay, so it says heated hose at 4, and it says heated humidity at 4. So whatever. So we're idling around 48 watts. We'll do this stick it on my face test. Alright, so for the DreamStation 1, you know, it might be broken and you know, had that error code for the hose, but it's claiming heat and humidity is drawing 47.5 watts, and that's probably not accurate. It's probably closer to what the DreamStation 2 had. And then for its you know, no heat and humidity, 6.5 watts, which is pretty close to what the DreamStation 2 had. So I would think these two CPAPs would need about the same battery. So let's just say it's a very similar story. So the conclusion is pretty simple, isn't it? If you're looking to run your CPAP on a battery and you don't have, you know, $1,000 or $2,000 to spend, don't use heat and humidity. It's too much. You know, these batteries, like this one here, this Easy Longer ES 960. This was given to me by a company who just wanted a review on it, and I am grateful to have it, honestly, because it gave me, with actually testing it, 40 hours of use. I mean, that's 5 nights at 8 hours of no heat and humidity. Now that's pretty great. These are selling for $280, so they're not the most expensive, they're not the cheapest, they're somewhere in the middle for a 297.6 watt hour capacity. So hopefully that price is reflected in its internals, that it's a decent unit. I've only had 4 charge cycles on this, so you don't know how long something's going to last until you actually put it to the test. But yeah, the big point is you get what you pay for, and if you want a lot, you got to pay a lot. So consider that when you're trying to size the right battery for your CPAP needs. I don't know how much other CPAPs use, because I only have these 2 that I can test. But if you Google how much power does a CPAP use, a lot of them, a lot of replies to forums where people say they've tested their units, say it's somewhere between 70 and 100 when you're using the heat and humidity. 70 watts to 100 watts when you're using heat and humidity, right? So that's a very large power demand, and more than either of these tested needing, meaning if you wanted a few nights, you might have to get a 2 kilowatt portable battery. And by the time you get to 2 kilowatts, it's not that portable. It's not something that you can, you know, stick in a backpack even. It's got handles on it and you're toting it around. So if you want heat and humidity backup for at home, for power outages, yeah, definitely go for that. But if you're looking to go outdoors with it and walk a while or anything, don't even bother. Just turn off the heat and humidity and buy a much more affordable, much smaller battery pack. That would be my advice. Anyways, I hope this was useful. If you liked it, can I get a thumbs up? And you know, I don't exclusively do CPAP content. I fix cars and stuff. If you're into just general handyman things, subscribe. Anyways, y'all be good, and I'll catch you on the next one.